But let's see if we can spend some time in discussion. And I do apologize for this. If you have questions, uh, please log on and let's uh, let's try to discuss our questions. All right. The let's go back a minute in case you missed this last this last section uh, on the question of the resurrection. The for now, uh, on this day we've seen uh, Jesus uh, interact with at least two groups. The first group was made up of the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders. They had sought to entrap Jesus on the question of authority. You will remember. And you will also remember Jesus' response to them. It was a rather uh, prudent response. Jesus said to them that I'll answer your question if you tell me about John the Baptist. Was he sent from God? So they finally said to him, well, we don't know. And they were able to uh, free themselves from that potential conflict. The second group on this day is made up of the Pharisees and the Herodians. Okay? So they sought to entrap Jesus by raising a question about taxes or tribute. Uh, they wanted Jesus to answer or settle the issue of whether or not they should pay taxes, whether they should pay tribute to the state. And so Jesus was able to spare himself from falling headlong into their trap by simply having someone to give him a coin. And so he said, whose image and whose likeness, or what's the inscription says. Now, they all knew that, and so they could not lie. They answered Caesar. And Jesus said, then render to Caesar what is Caesar, and to God that which is God. Another group, and this is the group we're calling the Sadducees, came to Jesus, again with the intent to entrap him, to embroil him in this controversy of politics and religion. And if they can start an argument, then they will, at least they thought, would certainly place Jesus in a compromised position, thus damaging his popularity and his authority with the people. Okay, so the passage we read a few minutes ago came from Mark chapter 12. And so I would ask you to, if you're still with me, to to go back and let's look at Mark chapter 12, verses 18 through 27. And we'll read beginning with verse 18. And Sadducees came to him, who say there is no resurrection. And they asked him a question, saying, verse 19, Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies and leaves a wife, but leaves no child, the man must take the wife and raise up children for his brother. Verse 20, there were 7 brothers. The first took a wife, and when he died, left no children. Verse 21, and the second took her and died, leaving no children, and the third likewise. And the 7th left no children. Last of all, the woman also died. Verse 23, in the resurrection, whose wife will she be? For the 7 had her as wife. Verse 24, Jesus said to them, is not this why you are wrong, and that you know neither the scriptures nor the power of God? Verse 25, for when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. Verse 26, and as for the dead being raised, have you not read in the book of Moses, in the passage about the bush, how God said to him, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? Verse 27, he is not God of the dead, but of the living. You're quite wrong. That ends the reading. Who were the Sadducees? The Sadducees were the priestly and most powerful party among the Jews. They questioned the immortality of the soul and believed neither in angels nor in spirits. They represented the modern materialist. It is to be noted, however, that the question with which they approached Jesus is not in reference to immortality, but to the resurrection of the body. The Sadducees presented Jesus with a hypothetical. There were 7 brothers. The first brother married but died childless, as required by the Mosaic law. The second brother married the widow, but he also died childless. Each brother in succession married the widow and died childless. Finally, the wife died. 7 brothers, each having married the same wife without producing an offspring. Now, the question that will surely test the teacher's wisdom and disqualify him as Messiah is, in the resurrection, whose wife will she be? For the 7 had her as wife. Verse 23. Jesus said to them, is not this why you are wrong, that you know neither the scriptures nor the power of God? For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. And as for the dead being raised, have you not read in the book of Moses, in the passage about the bush, how God said to him, I am the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. He is not God of the dead, but of the living. You are quite wrong. Well, what was the reaction of the multitude? Mark omits this, which is uncharacteristic of the writer. Therefore, it's a reasonable assumption to make that this episode occurred immediately following or at the same time as did the encounter with the Pharisees and the Herodians. What is evident is that organized religion has banded together to silence Jesus, convinced that Jesus is a significant, if not an existential threat to their leadership. Well, I'm sorry that we had an interruption in the broadcast and not able to answer your questions, but this is a good place to stop. We'll pick up next week at chapter 12 and verse 28. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube, and have a great and safe week.
Hey, hey, let me hear you say, yeah.